kia ora koutou te whānau. Welcome back to Bright Hairy News, the Friday edition of Big Hairy News, with just myself, Ems. Magenta is busy tonight, I believe. They may jump in at some point on their phone, but otherwise, I have planned an exciting show for you to keep you all entertained for the next, hopefully 60 minutes. It might be 2 hours. I'm going with 60. Got a very busy day tomorrow, so I'm gonna go a tight show. And you guys can go and enjoy. You can go and enjoy your Friday nights. Fingers crossed. Hope you all had a wonderful week. Yes, I've been enjoying the sunshine. I've been enjoying the warmth here in Christchurch. It's been great. We've been a busy week of things, I guess. Why am I alone, Ems? It's all good. It's just keeping the show going. We sorted. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. I've been streaming. I've been streaming for a little while, so this is slightly different because I'm not playing games. I'm speaking to you all and commentating. Yeah, so enjoy the sound of my voice. We've got a few things we're going to cover tonight. We had the job seeker benefits brought forward to this month, where 18 and 19-year-olds have to be means tested against their parents. And there was some interesting back and forth in the House that we should look at. There was a mention of the regulatory impact statement, which are my new things to go and have a look at and investigate. So we'll have a look at that and see what was proposed by the Ministry of Social Development and what the Minister preferred. We'll also on the topic of what a minister wants versus the ministry. We'll also have a look at what who wrote the cabinet paper that recommended New Zealand to not recognise Palestine at the UN, and climate change news, which has not been so great recently, but I think it's important that we highlight it. Some of the tipping points, which we are getting very close to, and hopefully we can reverse some of those targets that we're heading towards, the bad targets that we're heading towards. We'll see. There was some embarrassment at COP30 towards New Zealand and its shitty targets, its reducing of its targets, the reducing of its fantastic climate policy that we once had, its bipartisanship that we once had about the climate, kind of all going out the window, which is not ideal at all. But before we get too excited about the exciting news that we're about to cover, woohoo! We should probably do the thank yous. Got to do the banner. Gotta do the banner. Which one do we use now? I think the podcast awards. Podcast awards. Hang on. I'm just gonna double check the podcast awards. Podcast awards. People's Choice. I'm just wait, opens on the 15th of October? Oh yeah. Wait, no, yeah, we're definitely announced on the 20th, so I'm gonna say you got like 5 days to do it. I'm gonna put that at the bottom to remind y'all. I think there's a little, there we go, that in the corner. Looks like oh wait, no, it doesn't say when you can. All right, it says the 20th, so I'm just gonna assume, unless someone's put in the chat. I'm gonna get lost in my own train of thoughts. It's gonna be a stream of consciousness. You guys are gonna love it. It's gonna be the best stream ever. They closed? They closed? Oh, maybe they are closed. I mean, I can still see the web page, so click on the link. It's still open. Maybe we've closed them. I'll put it away. I do remember Pat saying something like it was midweek or the 14th. I feel like it was today. So, it's unfortunate. If someone can confirm, then yeah, that would be great. Oh, they said it last night. Damn it. Okay, well, fingers crossed. I got my vote in. I hope everyone got their vote in, because we are indeed the people's choice, and we like to beat out our friends, our other lefty friends on the internet. And we want to be the best. Be the best that ever was. Right, we gotta say some thank yous. Also, I created a new layout. I want to see which one it goes to. Okay, it goes to our regular one, but I have also created this one. Oh, in which I'm a little bit bigger. But this is about the other screen, so I'll make it that size. Yeah. A big thank you to our patrons. Our patrons who make the show possible. Without you, we would not have a show. And you've enabled us to have a Friday show for the last year. We had our 1-year anniversary last week. If you got to tune into that, if you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/BigHairyNews, and you'll get things like this 40-minute interview with Sam Cedar that Pat got to do yesterday. I'm very jealous, very, very, very jealous. But yeah, you get sneak peeks of that. He also had a chat with Tamitha Paul, so you get those early access to those. You also get Patreon deals and things as well, if you're into those, if you're into merchandise. Speaking of merchandise. Oh, see it, go back to this one. This one, you gotta see the pink. Don't be doing that to me. The shop. What if I'm to do now? Oh yeah, okay, cool. I have been playing with the scenes. Doesn't quite do what I want it to do though. Meh. Yeah, you can go to bhnshop. bhnshop.nz, should I say. And you can support us with some merchandise as well. You can wear the dogs, which has just been uploaded recently. You can put the boys on your chest. You can put a Chewy Foo-Foo on with a bright orange hoodie. Nicky No Boats. We got our buffers. We got the 4 of us looking super cute. Look at us looking cute. Regular BHN. A whole Nala to herself. Look at that. A whole Nala tea to herself. Look how cute she is. Oh, and the grey. Ooh. Ooh. And the rust? Oh yeah, you can see them there. And the rust is kind of cool. Ooh. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there a preferred... Oh, and the Ilva one's kind of cool too. A little sneak peek behind the scenes. I had no idea how to spell Ilva because I'd never seen it written. And so there was like a couple of emails back and forth between and like sending files to Pat for these. And Ilva's spelt like 6 different ways with like, well, not 6, but like 3 or 4 different ways with all the different vowels, or yeah, vowels at the front. So I had one that was Alva A, one that was Ilva I, and there was one that was Ilva E. No, I don't think, no, yeah, I don't know if I did an E, Ilva, but I didn't know which one. Turns out it was a Y. YLVA. I probably could have guessed, because it's a Swedish dog? Joey? Is it Swedish? Swedish? Probably Swedish. Alrighty. What are we doing? Do we want to start with the benefit stuff? Let's start with the benefit stuff. Let's have a look, because I like a little deep dive. Oh, maybe I tried one with a U. Yeah, I think I tried it Ilva with a U. I was like, no, Olva doesn't sound right. I'm going to move my chair ever so slightly this way because my mic is sitting in the wrong spot. I also played with the mic settings So do tell me if I keep cutting in and out or anything like that. Do tell me. Do tell me. Do try it. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Do we like this one? Or do we like this one? I suppose you guys are trying to read it. We'll go for this. No, wait, no. We want to go for, oh, this one. There we go. We'll stick with this one for now. So, benefit change, throwing young people to food banks, says the Greens. This is Ricardo Menendez March, I believe, who was grilling Louise Upston in the House about this. So the Green Party is accusing the government of knowingly driving more people into food banks by tightening access to the jobseeker benefit. The coalition will end jobseeker payments to 18 and 19-year-olds whose parents earn more than $65,000 from next November. You mean this November? Or maybe it was November 26th. Not. Okay, cool. We got a whole nother year. It's fine, guys. It's just a whole nother year. There'll be a new government by that point, sure. Its rationale is that going on to welfare when you're young is a trap and could negatively impact a teenager's long-term outcomes. Government wants 50,000 fewer people on the job seeker benefit by 2030, but has denied its policy is being implemented to help meet that target. A regulatory impact statement, RIS, which we're going to look at, shows officials presented the government with 5 options for reducing the number of young people on a job seeker benefit. They include retaining the status quo, providing more education and training, introducing a parental income test, introducing a parental support gap test, or introducing both a parental income test and parental support gap test. The Ministry of Social Development's preferred option was more education and training services for young people, including addressing numeracy and literacy barriers to employment, education, and training. Minister Louise Upston's preferred option was to introduce the 2 parental tests. This policy was supposed to take effect in July 2027, but has been brought forward to November 2026. So not this year, sorry, next year. The regulatory impact statement states Upston's preferred policy would lead to an increase in demand for assistance provided by community service providers or other non-governmental organisations like food banks. Green Party's social development spokesperson Ricardo Menendez March asked Upston if her ministry's advice was correct in question time on Thursday. Upston said yes, and the Ministry of Social Development was also right, as the Prime Minister said, Minister was saying that we don't want to see young people trapped on welfare. We don't want them to see future decades of their lives stuck in welfare. We have higher expectations of them. Great response here from Menendez. So if her answer to the previous question was yes, why did she go ahead with a policy that would result in more people needing income support and greater demand for food banks? As she says, because, as I've said multiple times in this house, we believe 18 and 19-year-olds should be starting on a path it gives them the greatest opportunities for the rest of their lives. That means being in education, being in training, or being in a job. On Friday, Menendez March said the minister's answer showed the government's policy was about meeting its job seeker benefit target, not supporting young people into jobs. The government has admitted that their policy will lead to more people requiring assistance from food banks, and it's pretty damning to see a minister knowingly push ahead with a policy that will lead to more people needing food banks just to survive. It also shows that the minister never intended to actually support young people into employment, and instead is willingly throwing young people towards food banks at a time that we know. There's a typo in there. No, there are simply not enough jobs available out there for young people who are finding themselves unemployed and out of education. And then he goes to say, we know that poverty compounds, and when we have young people needing to go to food banks to make ends meet, we are setting young people up for a life of debt, of hardship, which is in itself is counterintuitive to setting them up to a path of employment and sustainability. Great words, Ricardo. So no one's surprised. I think Menendez March did a great job at pushing back and pointing out what we all know, and that is that you need to support people out of poverty, not this whole pull them up by their bootstraps philosophy, which is kind of fucked up in many ways. Now, because it was mentioned, the regulatory impact statement, I wanted to go and have a look at it because I do like to be somewhat informed. I'm not great at the whole government stuff, but I do like to be somewhat informed. I don't like to just go off the words of our favourites. Sometimes I like to look into it myself, just to double check we got at least some facts correct. So I thought what we could do is go, and I used the Firefox version because then I can do this. Oh, and look, it's big. And I can make it, look, it sizes with the size I have. Look how cool that is. There you go. Now I'm not just like a tiny box on the screen. So I had a look at the regulatory impact statement because I wanted to find out what it was that the ministry suggested were some of the other options, and what the minister suggested and what she wanted. So I did. Highlighted some things. I highlighted some things. My highlights are gone. No, they're not. They're right here. Wait, did I not highlight anything else? No. No, I did not. All right, so decision sort analysis of the document has been produced to support the cabinet decisions of the policy settings, the parental assistance test to tighten access to specified benefits for 18 and 19-year-olds without dependent children. This includes, but is not limited to, the specific components of the PAT, the cohorts it would apply to, in the specific settings of each aspect of the PAT. Date finalized 10th of September. And then there's all the things. So what is the problem? What is the policy problem? More young people are receiving job seeker support. This has the potential to negatively impact their long-term outcomes, as well as contributing to increased benefit expenditure, which is a significant expense for government. What are the objectives? To reduce the number of young people on job seeker support by encouraging them to enter employment, education, or training, and thereby reducing government expenditure. There's a lot about reducing government expenditure here. It's pretty blatant. So this is kind of the summaries of each of these things. But what I want to have a look at here is diagnosing the problem. Get into the weeds of it in a second, but so population impacts of doing so. So certain groups tend to be disproportionately represented in the benefit population as compared with the wider New Zealand population. As a result, any changes made to the welfare system tend to disproportionately affect these groups. Generally speaking, young people are more likely to be unemployed than other age groups. In December 2024 quarter, the unemployment rate for people aged 15 to 19 was 23%. Kind of makes sense, but that kind of makes sense. But still, significantly higher than overall unemployment rate of 5.1% for the same period. This means there may be greater need for support for this cohort, and that there may be wider labour market factors which limit the effectiveness of any interventions. Young people who have dependent children will not be affected, as they will be in receipt of the young parent payment until they turn 20. Only 20? Damn. That's not a whole lot of support. Māori and Pacific people are mentioned. 1/3 of 18 to 19-year-olds on job seeker support identify as Māori. 11% as Pacific. A third. Damn, that's a lot. These are roughly equivalent to the percentage of the wider benefit population who identify with these ethnicities, but is greater than the representation of these groups in the wider New Zealand population. I believe Māori make up a fifth. The fifth of the population. Similarly, Māori and Pacific people have higher unemployment rates than the wider population. The unemployment rates for Māori and Pacific people were 10.5% and 10.8% respectively. So double that of the base Right. It's crazy. Disabled people also mentioned, because the changes will be applied to all of the different subtypes of job seeker support in the equivalent emergency benefit rather than just to job seeker support work ready, disabled people are more likely to be affected. As of June 2025, roughly 1/5 of the job seeker support recipients aged 18 to 19 were receiving job seeker support, health condition, injury, or disability. I hate that they change these categories. They're so dumb. So they changed the categories, right? So they're all under job seeker. But as you can see there, job seeker support work ready. And then you've got job seeker support, health condition, injury, or disability. But I believe that used to be its own category entirely. And there are people in that category, if I'm correct, who are long-term disabled, they'll never be job seekers. So it's so dumb. So dumb. I just realized I haven't plugged myself in. I haven't plugged myself in. So you've got Wi-Fi. So if I cut in and out, deal with it. Correct? Okay, cool. Correct. That is what they did. So there are a bunch of things under the job seeker thing. It's going to apply to all of these subsections, which is pretty shit. Hey, bring me up my tab. Thank you. I was talking there. Roughly 1/5 of job seeker support recipients are 18-19. It's the health condition, injury, and disability, indicating that they are limited in their capacity to work or are temporarily unable to work at all for health-related reasons, including disabilities. Disabled people often have higher costs, higher rates of unemployment compared to non-disabled. Then we also talk about women as well. As of June 2025, just under 90,000 women were receiving job seeker support, representing roughly 41% of the total job seeker cohort. This is relatively lower than the proportion of women receiving support through other benefits, with just over 50% of supported living payments recipients and 90% of sole parent support recipients identifying as women. Rainbow communities are also mentioned here. Members of the rainbow community more likely to receiving a benefit than their cisgender and straight peers. The rainbow benefit population also skews younger than the population as a whole. Kind of makes sense. Meaning that any changes that affect young people would have a greater effect on the rainbow community. So here's what is proposed. So the proposal is so this is what they're trying to do. This is with all the different things, what they are. Or is this what the ministry? Hang on, let's just have a read. What is proposed? The proposal is to reduce the number of 18 and 19-year-olds on benefit by tightening the eligibility criteria for specific benefits. Blech. Specific, I hate that word, specified benefits through introducing a PAT from November 2026. The PAT will consist of a parental income test in the first instance, and that will mean that, in addition to young person meeting all other existing eligibility criteria, a young person's parents must earn under a specific amount, the income limit, in order for a young person to be able to receive support. There will be further decisions made on policy settings as part of the implementation and design process. If a young person tells MSD that they cannot rely on their parent or parents for support, MSD will use a parental support gap test to assess whether there are circumstances that mean that they cannot rely on their parents for financial support. This one is interesting. I'll say it again. If a young person tells MSD that they cannot rely on their parent or parents for support, MSD will use a parental support gap test to assess whether there are circumstances that mean they cannot rely on their parents for financial support. So if I'm reading this correctly, then a young person, or the person who should be receiving an 18 or 19-year-old should be receiving their support, goes to MSD and says, I cannot get any support from my parents. does MSD then go and just say, so what, we're going to double check that you're not just lying to us? Like, what? So they're going to go to the parents and be like, oh, are you sure you can't support your child? Oh, just double check. Like, there are a lot of people in the 18-19 category who, especially, it sounds awful, and it's not, it sounds like a stereotype in some ways, but I think this is a broad understanding of sorts. But poverty, the way that I kind of think about it is that you've got people in poverty, people that are on long-term benefits or in benefits for a number of reasons. It creates a lot of financial stress and then a lot of personal stress in their lives. So they tend to be kind of unstable environments and not great environments for kids. You have people, as someone just said, you have people turning to gangs for support. We've talked about this before. I think we had Harry Tam has come on, talked about how gang culture and gangs have risen up out of a failure of the state to support them, to support a lot of the communities that were mentioned before, specifically Māori and Pacifica communities. And so you've got these people who, and then you've also got, this week we also saw highlighted again, some people don't feel safe with police, so police are kind of push people into gangs as well, because, you know, they're a form of community. Anyways, so it makes sense that there are probably a lot of teenagers who don't have great parental figures, or they don't have great relationships with their biological parents or the parents that they would consider in this test. So, like, this is just, if someone says that they can't get the support, like, it's really awful that they're gonna, like, second guess them. This is essentially what I'm reading. And number 32, if parental income is at or below the specified income limit, or there is a, and that's not me, that's a spelling typo. If there is a parental support gap, the 18 or 19-year-old will be eligible for the relevant benefit, provided they also meet all of the eligibility criteria for the benefit. This is a great example. Again, what are the objectives in relation to the policy problem? Encourage young people into other employment, education, and training. That's great. Reduce the likelihood of long-term benefit dependency. That's also great. And then reduce the fiscal cost to government. Top three reasons that we're making these changes. Government cost. It's just so costly to look after these young people. Just anything, I would like you to be putting more money into paying for these things specifically. That would be great. I'm more than happy to pay for it as a taxpayer. More than happy to pay for this. Hey. Okay, and then this is where it gets even more fun. What consultation has been undertaken? No consultation has been done to date because the work was initiated through Budget 2025 and therefore subject to confidentiality requirements. The intention is to conduct targeted engagement from September to October 25, just 2 months, with key stakeholders who have relevant experience and expertise. These will include MSD reference groups, youth and beneficiary advocacy groups, and organisations which provide community and family support. That's good, I guess. Right. Then we go into, so what were the options that are considered? So there are 5 options that have been assessed against the criteria outlined in paragraph 37 above, which what's that? Criteria to compare options will be encourages young people into employment, education, training, maintains ability to access of MSD services and support when needed, reduces government expenditure in the short term, reduces government expenditure in the medium and long term, reduces risk of long-term benefit dependency. So these are the tables we're going to look at in a minute, and how how it ranks in each of those categories, each of the options. The 5 options are the status quo, so no changes. Option 2, provision of more education and training services for young people. Option 3, test of parental income only. Option 4, test for gap in parental income only. Option 5, test of both parental income and parental support, a parental assistance test. So option 2 is the only non-regulatory option, provision of more education and training services for young people. Across all options, it should be recognised that the labour market, immigration settings, and individual barriers have an impact on people's ability to enter employment. So this is also quite important as well. So across all options, it should be recognised the labour market, the immigration settings, and individual barriers have an impact on people's ability. These are all things that the government could do something about. Some of these individual barriers might be people's health. Some of these individual barriers might just be the cost of living. The labour market, government has it has a possible direct impact on that if they want to. They can create jobs. They can put money into infrastructure. They put money into infrastructure, they create jobs. If they create jobs, they create opportunities for young people to get into the labour market. They also create opportunities for their parents to get into the labour market and then help them get out of poverty. So it's not just the young people. The government has a part to play in this as well. Not just this, it's the parents' fault kind of bullshit. Let's get into the fun stuff. I'm going to have to do this. Okay, let's do one of these so you guys can see it, and then do one of these. Okay, and this is where we compare. No, wait, cancel. I don't want to quit. Cancel. No, cancel. Don't. I need my highlights, guys. I need my highlights. Okay. So, how do each of the options compare to the status quo? So we've got our option 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I believe the option of the preferred option for the Minster was option 5. Did that say? Did I highlight it? No, I can't see it. Okay. I'm pretty sure I highlighted which one was hers. So, compared to the status quo, encourages young people to move into employment. Zeros across the board. So, no impact, basically, compared to so all of these options have, apart from the obvious one, provide more education and training services for young people, nothing else will do it. None of these options encourage that. That is hilarious. Right. The second one, maintains ability to access MSD services and support where needed. Status quo, no change. Number 2, option 2, the one preferred by the ministry. I'll try and zoom in a little bit more so you guys can read this. A plus, there would be more employment-related support available to young people under this option. The rest of them, double negative, double negative, negative. Young people would have considerably reduced access to MSD services. Young people would have reduced access to MSD services and supports compared to the status quo. Do not account for parents' income, meaning that the circumstances of families that may already under financial strain will not be considered. However, young people with a parental support cap will be able to access welfare and other support from MSD. Fewer young people will be able to access MSD assistance to support them into employment, education, and training, as compared to the status quo. A combination of parental income test and parental support gap will mean that young people would be able to access MSD support as compared to options 3 and 4. There you go. Reduces government expenditure. Look at this, guys. Look at this. We finally found a plus column. No change, obviously. Negative, obviously. more training and services. They cost government money. So yes, this is a negative. However, the three other options, which are generally not great, that the minister would much prefer, pluses across the board. This one would have short-term savings. This option may lead to short-term savings. This option would lead to short-term savings. Well, that's the best options then, isn't it, guys? Isn't it? Next one, reduces government, so that was for the short term, reduces government expenditure in the medium to long term. This one not so great, guys. The short term, pluses across the board. Short term thinking, pluses across the board. Let's do it. Reduces expenditure of the medium to long term. Negatives across the board. What? This is so blatantly obvious. It hurts. What? I'm not, you guys are seeing this? Negatives across the board? For long-term thinking? This long-term thinking government that is changing something that will fundamentally screw up a 18 and 19-year-olds of a small part of the generation, for sure. I don't know how long this policy will even go through. I don't know whether or not the next government's 100-day thing will, you know, kick this out of the water. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff they have to reverse, unfortunately. But, like, they're only thinking short term. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah, this so this option would likely increase the government expenditure in the medium to long term. Young people whose parents earn above the income threshold, but who do not or will not provide them with financial support, will likely have greater need for support from other government sources, including MSD hardship and supplementary assistance, could result in increased movement into the student support system by those who meet eligibility criteria as an alternative way to access financial support. So basically pushing people into education. And I know a lot of people that did this. I'm one of those people. Pushing them into education in order just to pay their bills. Because what often happens in cost of living or when times are tough and people can't get into jobs is there's generally a lot of support when you're in education. So people then go back to study. And it does put on fees, if you can still access fees, or if you can still access like the fees that pay for the education, not just paying for your living costs. So it's not great in the long term. But it's great in the short term because, oh look, now I get $300 a week. If it's $300 a week, maybe it's $300 a pay. It's not a whole lot of money to be a student, that's for sure. Again, this option will likely increase medium to long-term government expenditure. Again, the same sort of things. But this one's only one negative, only one minus. Having both an income test and a support gap test, this policy can better identify support those young people who will need support from the welfare system. It could result in increased movement into the student support system. Again, all right, reduces the risk of long-term benefit dependency, preferred by the ministry. Plus. Everything else negative, no changes. And then the overall assessment, here we go. Status quo as obviously, plus for much better than the status quo. And then negative, or minus, much worse than the status quo, much worse than the status quo, 0, about the same as the status quo. Great policy making, guys. Great policy making. Okay, so here, this is where it says the options. Okay, so what option is likely to best address the problem, meet the policy objectives, and deliver the highest net benefits? Option number 2 is likely to best address the problems and meet the policy objectives. More education and training services for young people is more likely than the other options to address the problem, meet the policy objectives, and deliver the highest net benefits. This is due to addressing some of the This is addressing. Oh, Jesus, I thought they would make things easier to read. I don't know why this is like scanned in at 72 dBi. Deliver the high near the bear. This is due to addressing some of the issues that result in a mismatch between the skills and experience, such as literacy and numeracy skills, that young people might have when they leave school and those that are required by employers or education and training providers. Why there are higher costs in the short term with this option, it is likely to lead to better long-term outcomes for young people and government as a whole. By addressing some of the upfront barriers to employment, more young people are likely to be able to get jobs to the extent that entry-level jobs are available, or take up education and training opportunities. This can be expected to reduce both take-up and duration of... Is it uptake? I think it's uptake. And duration of benefit receipt, thus reducing government's expenditure in the welfare system. Option 3, 4, and 5 are all expected to increase demand for the student support system. Also paid out by the government, guys, just so you know. As some young people will look to move into education when they are no longer supported via the main benefit, acknowledging that many of these young people may not be in a position to study at this level. So you basically got, what they're saying here is that there are people who are on the job seeker benefit, who are 18 to 19-year-olds who have left high school, they've left secondary education, they left a secondary education with perhaps no qualifications, especially because now a lot of schools are scrapping level 1 NCEA, which did give you something. When you turn 16, you don't have to do level 2. So you've got kids who are not leaving with what they need for the minimum for most universities or even technical colleges. Apprenticeships, they all kind of they require you to have level 2, or at least like pass level 1 mathematics. So you've got this gap that they've identified. Ministry, who knows their shit, they've identified it. Well done. They've identified this is the issue. So you've got this little gap of people who don't have the education to move into tertiary education. And there are no jobs out there because no one's going to take someone who's got 0 education qualifications. And now they're not being supported by the government. So it's going to lead to people who are just stuck, can't do anything, and oh my God, you have created lifetime beneficiaries. Well done, government. That was for options 3, 4, and 5. But option 2, could have done it. Could have done it. Right. Is the Minister's preferred option in the Cabinet paper the same as the agency's preferred option in the RAS? No. No. No, the Minister's preferred option is option 5, introduction of the parental assistance test. MSD's preference is option 2, provide more education and training services. This is because, as previously noted, key employment barriers faced by young people include such things as not having achieved NCA level 2, like I was just saying, or equivalent, a driver's license, and or fundamental workplace skills such as numeracy and literacy. What a waste of fucking taxpayers' money making this regulatory impact statement. Real great, guys. Real great. They also go into the costs, the marginal costs, which starts to go into the weeds, even more weeds. So if you want to go and read that, have fun. I believe there was all things. Yeah, that was everything I highlighted. You kind of get the gist. No. There you go. So that was fun. Here's my little deep dive for you guys. How do we feel after that? Do we feel like we've learned something? Again, it's all ideological. It's really sad. It's sad to see that the long-term impacts of this are really damaging on, it might be only a few thousand young people. Might be probably few thousand who will be directly and very poorly impacted by this. Then there'll be the broader around that'll be also impacted by this, perhaps not to the same severity. And it's just going to be a cost on the government in the future. And it's going to be a cost on all of the things that this government is harping on about. The housing crisis. It's going to impact our productivity. It's going to impact our government spending, baseline costs, our beneficiary spending, because there are going to be more people on the benefit. It's so annoying when you've got people who are smart and know their shit and are experts and have the data, and they've scrambled through the data for years. They've worked with these people. They know these situations inside out. They understand why these people are in these situations. They understand what leads to long-term beneficiaries. And this is across the government, across ministries, in education, in Ministry of Social Development, and all of these, in healthcare. They understand these portfolios like the back of their hand. And yet governments, not just this one, previous governments do, they come in and they have these ideologies, and they have these ideological frameworks in which they operate, and they have these little throwaway lines of pull yourself up by your bootstraps stuff, and the 18 and 19-year-olds, on benefits just sit there in their PlayStations and they don't do anything. And families want us to do something. Parents want us to do something about it. And then they just ignore all of the advice of like, okay, cool, yeah, that might be a problem. Maybe not the way you framed it, but sure, that definitely is a problem. We know about that problem to some degree. We know these problems very well. This is our, bread and butter. And yet, they give them the advice, they tell them how it's going to help them, they tell them how it meets their objectives, and they ignore it. They go with the one that sounds best. They go with the one that fits what they've been saying. And it's really sad. Very, very sad. Anyway, that's enough of me ranting. I have been slightly reading your comments. I'm going to go back through, and I'm going to read out your comments and put them on screen. Here you go. Look, 15 minutes of my time. 50 minutes of your time. Now you're hopefully slightly more educated. Right. I just learned that the job seeker is lower than student allowance, but not by much. Of course, the numbers on job seekers would look a whole lot better if you shove them into the student allowance. That's for sure. Option 1, be a beneficiary. Option 2, be a brick in the wall. My new Christmas dinner with family talking points is if you're going to vote National, you hate New Zealand. Oh, that's going to be a fun Christmas to be at. It's a fun Christmas indeed. I hope they extend working for families and child support. They probably won't. Unfortunately, no, they probably won't. Future governments will get the flack when it crops up, and these same assholes can blame it on those currently in power. Exactly. Imagine spending your time writing policy, then seeing what happens to it. I think my husband was talking about like long-term what their job plan might be. And they were just like, well, I mean, you can go down like, if you're in education, you're a teacher, then you could go down like the management, SLT, or a principal. Or the other way is you go into ministry and you go into writing policy and education stuff and curriculum and all of these things. And I said to them, you would hate ministry. Ministry must be the worst job because of all the things we just discussed. You put all of this knowledge all of these things into great policy. You finally get the policy through the House. Maybe you've got a great government for 2 or 3 terms and you're like seeing the fruits of your labor and you're going, oh my God, look, all these kids are achieving something. And the next government comes in and they go, nah, we're just gonna scrap it. Not important. We see too many kids on their PlayStations. Gotta do something about it. The parents' fault. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, you're the experts? Nah, that's fine. It's fine, guys. We got this sorted. We know what we're talking about. All right. I see the one super chat. Who's Peter? Hi, Peter. I wonder if there will be an amendment to the Child Support Act. As at present, child support ends at 18. That is a good point. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about that. Someone was asking if I'd seen the retirement story. Yes, I did have a look at that. I think TV1 did a quick thing on it. I didn't look crazy into it though. It doesn't look like there's going to be much on that until early next year when they actually make some. Whether or not they take up the recommendations, but essentially it was saying, women disproportionately affected by not working for as long as their male counterparts. They have lower retirement savings, lower Kiwi savers when they retire. Will they do anything about that? Whether or not they'll extend the parental boost to your KiwiSaver if you're on parental leave. Which, now that I think about it, that in itself is kind of fucked up. Because you only get parental leave if you have a job and if you meet the job requirements to get parental leave, which I think is like you have to have been working at least 10 hours a week for 6 months before you've had your baby. Before you have I think it's your due date even. And I know some people who have had babies and during their pregnancy, they could not work. Like throwing up every other day, which is an awful, like the proper, like not just like morning sickness, but just like chronic morning sickness, which I'm just like, no, thank you. It sounds like a nightmare for like their whole 9 months. So I don't know how you get your 10 hours in, but I don't know. So there's that part of it. So yeah, if you get parental leave, the like proper government parental leave that pays you out the max of what you earned, it's like the max is $600 a pay. I can't remember what it is. Then you get $1,000 into your KiwiSaver, because obviously you don't meet that $1,000 threshold to get the extra money that the government gives you. One of the other recommendations I saw there was the so you know how we talked about how the government cut their KiwiSaver contributions if you put in $1,000 from 50 cents a dollar to 25 cents a dollar up to 1,000. Yeah, the recommendation of the report was to reverse that decision and make the government put money into KiwiSaver as well. That would be great. So that was one of the other recommendations. There was also one of the ones I really liked was the sidecar recommendation, which is basically like a split fund. So you have your KiwiSaver main fund, and then you have a sidecar fund which slowly racks up a percentage to the side, essentially, so that people can't do hardship withdrawals on all of their KiwiSaver, but they do hardship withdrawals on a part of their KiwiSaver, kind of, on like a separated part of their KiwiSaver. I think is a really, really good idea. I think they were saying there's a few countries that that do that. Yeah, there was a few recommendations, but one of the big things that they're mentioning is that there are half as many retirees, or there will be about half as many retirees that will have secure housing and will have ongoing housing costs, or not even housing costs, ongoing living. Wait, what would you call it? Housing, home costs, housing costs. Yeah, I suppose housing. And we're seeing more and more and more retirees in rentals than their own homes, which is really sad. And that should not be the way. We also saw in the States, it just reminded me, the 50-year mortgages that they proposed. And there's a lot of backlash, obviously, with that, and how crazy that is. Because obviously, if you're paying interest for that long, what you'd be paying over time would be insane. Anyways, go and have a look at that. It's quite interesting. Alrighty. Yeah, massive scam. Alright, so, we're almost at 10 o'clock. Wonderful. I've entertained you for 1 hour. I'm going to entertain you for no more than 30 more. Hold me to it. I did have that story. Do we want to have, seeing as I've just talked about it, let's throw it up on the screen. And then we can have we'll see if my memory was correct and I got the correct stats. I can hopefully, I don't know how loud this is going to be. I've been playing around with this a bit. Let's go this, and put this on the screen.
Big change.
Oh, and we do this. And you guys have to tell me if you can hear it.
Changes could be on the way for KiwiSaver if it's to serve future generations. The latest retirement review makes 12 recommendations. Ones for immediate action include increasing government KiwiSaver contributions for low-income earners so support's targeted where it's most needed, extending the government parental leave contribution to $1,000 and removing unnecessary exclusions, which would allow those on temporary visas to join and people over 65 to receive employer contributions. Long-term recommendations include putting in a cross-party accord, hoping to avoid piecemeal decision-making, and having a parliamentary working party that sets a strategic 10-year retirement roadmap. Let's take a look at one issue that's having an impact.
That would be amazing. Bipartisanship. I'd love to see it. 10 years, locked in, leave it alone. Everyone's on the same page.
Housing. In the 45 to 64 age bracket, the number renting has doubled since the 1990s, up to 23%, while mortgage-free ownership's halved to 37%, pointing to more Kiwis likely to enter retirement with ongoing housing costs. Business correspondent Jason Walls looks at the proposals and the help for Kiwi parents.
And then there's, keep it there. I don't know why. Go back to this one, the solo one. Thank you. Look, now you get the pink. Yeah, so that's some of the numbers there. I would be interested to see what happens probably next year. Generally, the story was saying that I think Nicola Willis's comment was like, "Yeah, we'd totally look at these things if everyone else looks at them too." Just like, I think she was saying that like every party next year has to go into the election with the same policy. Like everyone's thinking about this, just not everyone's doing something about this. Just do something about this. Do something. Oh, I know. The fucking fund that Labour came up with, they would do something about it. Maybe don't have fucking like KiwiSaver contributions, government. Only cost you, I think I worked it out when we talked about it last. It was 30,000, the contributions from the government with halving it. I think over each person's lifetime, I think it was only $30,000 per person over their lifetime that would have impacted. That would have cost the government, which I know over the full population is a lot of money, but over 60 years, with putting it's basically forcing the government to save, and and they're just like, nah, it costs us too much right now. The next government can deal with this. We're in for hopefully 2 terms. Hopefully only one national. Hopefully only one. Yeah, and like the KiwiSaver fund basically goes straight back into the government's pocket. And it also would have helped to increase home ownership, which essentially you take the money out of KiwiSaver and that money goes directly to banks. And we basically pay the banks all of that, all of that interest and stuff. So, Also, the other thing I was just thinking about as well, there's a really annoying headline that I saw in one of the New Zealand Mr. Herald now, Mr. Herald now. It was a headline that really pissed me off. It said New Zealand's debt now up to $1 trillion, or nearing, I think it's like 800 billion, nearing $1 trillion. And made me really annoyed because I knew what it was talking about, but the average person who is all about, who's on the train of, government debt, New Zealand's under, no, government debt, blah, blah, and I looked at the comments, and it was exactly that. I looked at the comments, and it was all those people saying, government shouldn't be spending all of our money, $1 trillion, this is awful. What the story was talking about, and I think Craig illustrated this, or he kind of explained it, and I'm not sure if he was on the show or if it was one of his podcasts. He was talking about how most of that debt is private debt. And that's what the story was talking about, is that New Zealand's overall debt is $1 trillion, but a lot of that is Kiwi's debt. So like it's our debt, it's the private sector's debt, being us. And obviously it's all of our mortgages. So our country looks like we've got $1 trillion in debt, but it's all of our mortgages. And that offset by our net wealth, which, as we learned, is fuck all. It's like really, for like, I think if you're in the top 50th percentile, I think your average wealth has to be like 500,000 after all of your debts. So it's basically like anyone who's paid off their home, essentially. Yeah, so our government debt, and like it really isn't that bad. I wish when Labour gets grilled on its debt thing and government debt thing, that their rebuttal would be that our debt is not that bad. There's a great graph. Someone was sharing it around. I think Chewie ended up showing it on the show. But it was showing where we sit in the world for our government debt. And we sit in this beautiful little outer circle of the graph. And it's like ours is the best on that graph. Our government debt is well below, I think it's 45% of GDP. And the biggest ones are in the middle. And it's like we're talking about the difference between us and the rest of the world is that the rest of the world is sitting at 87 to 100% is kind of your average from that graph, I believe. Then you kind of go into your inner circles and it's like 150% of GDP. And in the middle, you've got the like crazy ones who are like 200% of GDP, 180% of GDP. And we're just nowhere near that. And like, I'm not an economist, so I can't speak to it entirely, but I think we're looking okay. Yeah, Japan is bad. Theirs is, they're in a, is it a recession? They got a backwards economy. They fucked. They real fucked. They real fucked. Yeah. So I'd be interested to see if the government does anything with the recommendations that they have recommended. Yeah, the fact that we don't have contributions past 65 is kind of a crazy one. Yeah, and political agreement would be great. That would be nice. Right. Next thing I would like to mention is the climate. How we're all going to burn. We're all going to burn. Speaking of being a parent, what are you doing? Why would you condemn them to such a world? No, surely not. Surely not. We're going to talk about being embarrassed on the world stage because of our recent decisions about climate and our emissions targets and all of those fun things. So we had the COP30 this week, I believe. Now, do we prefer this one? Or do we prefer this one? I think I preferred this one. Oh, no, I was going to shrink it. Never mind. We'll just do this. You guys prefer? You can read? Yeah, you can read. We can read. We can read together. So, yes, embarrassing. International climate expert at COP30 scorns New Zealand's methane targets. Story that came out yesterday. New Zealand's climbed down its methane emissions targets, and its agricultural emissions tax is dangerous and embarrassing, an international climate science and policy expert says. Speaking from COP30 Global Climate Summit in Brazil, Bill Here said the New Zealand government's recent policies decisions were completely contrary to scientific consensus. It is unbelievable this has happened against a backdrop of a rapidly warming planet. An increasing scientific concern that methane emissions have to be reduced absolutely and quickly. The government announced last month it would lower New Zealand's methane emission target from 24 to 47% reduction by 2050 and a 14 to 24% reduction, considering sufficient to meet no additional warming goal compared to 2017 levels. This no additional warming goal, I believe, has come out of the anti-climate science, pro-business, pro-oil think tanks, essentially, in which they've gone, hey, it's fine how it is. We can't do any better. Let's just not do any additional warming. Let's try and keep it exactly as it is now, not realizing the compounding effects of keeping it as it is now, because it will just get worse. So yeah, no additional warming. This is also a Seymour thing. He loves his no additional warming. Total bullshit. Total bullshit in climate science. It's a non thing. You cannot achieve, magical thinking lobby. You can't achieve you can't achieve climate change, the targets we need. Can't reverse the climate change effects that we're seeing with no additional warming. We have to get it down. So here, a physicist and former lead author of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is currently the chief executive of the not-profit Climate Analytics. He was responding to remarks made to RNZ by Climate Change Minister Simon Watts, who said he was prepared to explain the rationale for the new methane targets to other delegates at the COP. At COP. What is COP? Climate change? Climate? What is the COP? I know it's COP30. What is COP? Does anyone know what the COP stands for? That would be great. Other delegates at the COP, if we get questions around that, which will potentially be the case, from other countries that have pastoral farming systems, then we'll be dialoguing on that. Ugh, business speak. He said it was difficult to understand how New Zealand can make a constructive contribution to COP30 with this kind of attitude. Methane has contributed to around 1/3 of global warming so far, and I would be extremely worried if New Zealand, proportionally a country with a very large agricultural sector, were to be touting its methane rollbacks here in Brazil, where the COP was happening. The adoption of a no additional warming target rather than pursuing more emission reductions was an embarrassing and humiliating capture by industry. Talking about us. Always about us. It's so sad. Coalition of Ostriches. Conference of the Parties, COP. 30th Conference of the Parties under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. See, you guys are so smart. I don't need to do this whole show. You guys are smart. You could just do it yourself. You don't need me. It is a very dangerous time, very dangerous at a time we have to reduce the warming impact of methane, and very, very quickly. There was a global agreement to reduce methane, he said. New Zealand remains a signatory on the Global Methane Pledge, where several dozen countries have pledged to globally lower methane emissions by 30% from 2020 levels by 2030, which is 5 years away, guys. Just the whole 5 now. can't believe when 2030 and 2020 and 2025, like the smoking thing, the 2025 smoke-free, not anymore. When that came out when I was a kid, or 2025, what year did you have to be born? You had to be born in like 2008 or 2009, I think. And then you were basically like, free from big tobacco. The children born after 2008 will never be affected by tobacco. Woohoo! I remember when that came out and I was like, wow, 2025, that's so far away. And now it's like 2030 is 5 years away. Cool. That would be great. Right. There has been a global agreement to reduce methane, and what New Zealand has done is completely contrary to this. It seems hell-bent on maintaining methane at today's high and unsustainable levels. Ralph Sims, an emeritus professor in sustainable energy and climate mitigation at Massey, also said the New Zealand delegation might face awkward questions. I don't think New Zealand is going to be held in high regard. Ouch. There may be some agricultural countries that might look over the fence to see what New Zealand's got in mind, but I don't think there's going to be a huge acceptance of what the government is planning at the moment. Sucks to be Simon Watts. But you're part of it. This is your party. You're the minister of it. This is your government. I hope you get so much shit for this. I hope he's had the worst time. Go back to this one, please. I hope he's had the worst time at COP. Oh no, Simon Watts. Oh, Simon No Watts. Oh, you guys are funny. You guys are funny. Kaimatata, because I saw it. NACs hate police more than they let on. They defund them and are going by their attitude to climate change. They clearly think all cops are bad. I love that. They're so smart. You guys are smart. You guys are smart. And I've been told it's emeritus. Basically retired but won't be put out on pasture just yet. Thank you. Emeritus. There you go. The more you know. I love the description. So further on this, there was quite a bit of, this is a video actually I saw a wee while ago by Simon Clark, who is a climate science communicator. And he put out a video about a month ago, which was titled The Worst Month in Climate Change News and Climate Science News. And this really, he basically goes through all of the things where it was like, this is down, this is down, this is down, these are down. Like all the numbers were down or had gone up and down, and they're just bad ways. So they, he went through all of those, but his reaction to it was really telling, and it kind of hit home a little bit. And I was like, shit, this sucks. This is the world we're living in. But I thought I'd play this wee bit before we go into the next story. Well, the same story, but some of the 1.5 target type stuff. And let's see what a climate scientist, been doing this for like 10 years. Let's see what his reaction is to the worst month in climate change news.
Those are the big news stories. And with all of these, I can't tell if it's better or if it's worse. That none of this is surprising. Almost nothing that's happened this month is surprising to scientists who have been saying this stuff for decades. I've been a full-time science communicator specializing in climate since I finished my PhD at the end of 2017. I've been following the climate space for much longer than that. And this is unquestionably the worst month for climate news of my entire career. It has never been this bad. And to get ahead of a comment that I probably would have myself left maybe 10 years ago, referencing the Simpsons movie, that this is actually the best month for climate news for the rest of your life, that simply isn't true. We could talk about when CO2 emissions are likely to peak, and thus when the maximum increase of CO2 in the atmosphere in a given year will take place. Or we could talk about the solutions becoming more and more aligned with the 2-degree trajectory because technology moves further along the S-curve. But frankly, the big thing is that you only pass the first red line of the climate space, the first global tipping point, once. And that's what's happened this month. This is a milestone moment in the history of our species where we have officially pushed a global system past its breaking point. I'm very aware that...
Yeah. So we as humans, despite all of the experts, all of those people, again, all of those people who work in the ministries, who work in the not-for-profits, all the scientists at the universities who get paid by governments or paid by private, just get ignored by private interests, by people who want to be millionaires. The number of billionaires in the last year has gone up by some crazy amount. By people who just want to sit at the top and look down at all of us and go, suck it, you can all burn, you can all, drown. Like, we don't care what happens to your house. My house is fine. I live on a fucking hilltop. Ain't no climate change gonna affect me. It's just so depressing. Funnily enough, he does turn the video around and he does have a silver lining at the end of it. One of them is like, I'm playing a game where I get to pollinate, what's it? Where you get to like make a planet and do whatever I want on the planet. And I'm like, oh yes, escapism. But he was just saying about like being, the whole thing that we've talked about a lot, which is like being sustainably angry and like knowing when our limits are met and when we have to be like, I need to step away and like, all of this is shit, and yes, I have to know about it, and yes, we have to be aware of all of these things, but like, I need to step away and play video games so that I can come back and help the good fight. Or maybe your way of doing things is not being like me and speaking about this on the internet. Maybe that's too much for you. Maybe you like being in the comments. That's great. Maybe you don't like going to events, but maybe you like to be able to do advocacy on the internet. So each of us has a role to play. There are sometimes, I did see from him recently, a couple of months ago, he did also say there were some good targets, there were some good things happening. He also mentions that the coral reefs in this video, the coral reefs are fucked. But I did see a couple of months ago that the coral reefs were good. So we trying. Like, I think unfortunately the 90% of us who are good people, who are doing, the individuals who are doing our best, are just being like, we just have to work so much harder than the 10% who are pushing and making the planet unlivable, unfortunately. Yeah, that stuck in my mind. But the reason that it stuck in my mind and why I wanted to show you that is because this story came through today. Beyond 1.5, so the 1.5 degrees of warming, which was which was the tipping point, and why the global climate target still matters. So I think we've either hit it or we are very, very close to hitting the 1.5% of warming. Does it say if we're there? No, it doesn't say we've... Well, we've failed to ensure that we remain below 1.5 degrees. Yeah, it talks about where the limit was set, the global tipping points, 1.5%, 1.5 degrees, 1.5 degrees of additional warming. What that means, what that's going to affect. We've got the ice caps melting, we've got coral reefs, which was one of the big, among the first is the collapse of the world's coral reefs. That's one tipping point where we know it's about, at about 1.5 degrees. And then all of these other things Oh, there we go. When will we pass 1.5 degrees Celsius of additional warming? Very soon. The data is showing that we're getting very, very close to breaching global warming of 1.5 degrees. Cool. Look at that. Look at us go. Look at us, guys. The world has banded together to meet our targets. Woo! 2024 was the first year in which global average temperatures were more than 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels, but a single year does not define global warming. Global warming is normally understood as the long-term average across multiple years. The long-term warming trend is still below 1.5 degrees, but only just. If we expect that within the next 5 years or so, global warming as a long-term average in global temperatures will start to exceed the 1.5 degrees. Is there any way to avoid breaching it? Not really. I hate when things start with this. We saw it in the report before, which was just no. Is there any way to avoid breaching it? Not really. Emissions would have had to fall rapidly from 2020 onwards, and they haven't. We can't turn the ship around anymore in the space of 5 years. Even in the late 2010s, it was still possible, but now the very best scenarios place peak global warming closer to 1.7, and that is increasing all the time. If we wait another 5 years, the very best scenario puts us at 1.8 degrees, and so it goes. Time is not on our side. Why does it still matter? If the world couldn't limit warming to 1.5, it's easy to question the point of persevering. In fact, the world should be doubling down on its efforts for two reasons. The first is partly a legal and political one. International Court of Justice has ruled that 1.5 is a central part of the ambition and the obligations that countries have towards maintaining a livable climate. Wow, that's an international policy. Doing a great job. Doing a real good job. Real good job, guys. Once you pass 1.5 degrees, you can still get back to it, so it's still a relevant target. The second is that 1.5 is not a binary black and white threshold. It's not like everything's fine under 1.5 degrees and everything goes to hell in a handbasket above 1.5 degrees. Limiting warming to 1.6 degrees is better than limiting it to 1.7. Limiting to 1.7 degrees is better than limiting warming to only 1.8. The lower we can keep that peak of warming, the better. Getting back to 1.5 degrees would still be better than giving up just because we've already breached it. Sounds like something that Seymour would be quite happy with. Of course, it would have been better if we had managed that, but we haven't, so how are we going to deal with it? What's an overshot and how we can get back to 1.5? Earlier this year, Riesinger attended an event in Austria called the Overshoot Conference, the first global gathering of scientists to discuss the consequences of reaching 1.5 of warming and the possible paths to bend the curve back. There you go, there's Andy. Overshoot in a climate science context refers to exceeding the limit but then bringing it back to that level or below. It's not entirely infeasible in the long run, even while accepting that we will be above 1.5 degrees for a period of time with attendant greater damages, greater harm from climate extremes, greater risk of tipping points. However, doing so will mean more ambitious actions from governments, businesses and individuals. We hope. We hope. One thing that doesn't change at all when we exceed 1.5 degrees is the imperative to reduce emissions in the near term as rapidly as possible and as much as possible towards at least net zero emissions of long-lived greenhouse gases. That was the absolute minimum, though. The inevitable consequence, once you actually accept it, would be to start talking about long-term net negative emissions, so a scenario where countries take more CO2 out of the atmosphere than the totality of greenhouse gases they put into it in order to enable a world as whole get back to lower temperatures. Which is something we just talked about. Simon Watts had to go and explain why he reduced our targets. One of the things that we cannot, it's the absolute minimum, we cannot stop doing this. Very sad. Very, very sad. But lowering the temperatures, again, fix everything. If we could achieve net negative emissions, then the global temperature would come down again. But the question is, would other parts of the climate system also reverse? There is much less certainty about that. Just because the temperatures come back down again, that wouldn't turn the ocean circulation that might have shut down. That would not magically regrow glaciers or the western Antarctic ice sheet. Some geophysical systems, such as long-term sea level rise, might experience a lag. Others could be irretrievably lost. Even so, going past 1.5 degrees is not the time to give up on mitigation. You need to keep going at the same pace, if not more. So there you go. That was something that came out this morning. Just to keep the world informed. All the great things happening in the world. I have hope. I have hope that there are enough smart people in the world that can convince the biggest polluters to invest in the cleaner, greener solutions, such as your oil companies, and investing into, for example, mining the minerals needed to make solar panels, and like slowly pushing them in that direction, because, you know, the likes of solar and wind, specifically solar maybe 10 years ago was like, oh, it's expensive. Everyone can afford to put solar panels on their house. That's changing. Huge uptake of solar around the world. And I just hope there's enough people in those circles that go, hey, you should divert from oil and gas into, I don't know, maybe we convince them to go into mining. It's like a little bit less shit. And then those materials, we can help create new tech. That tech can be clean. Clean green. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, like I said, yes, I have hope. Are we down to hope? Yes, we're all down to hope. It'll be fine. Change the subject. Superiors. It's permafrost is thawing, and we're already fucked. Nah. It is. But yeah, I think we still have to do something about it. I think there are some incredible people around the world who are, this is their life mission. I hope they get to see that the world is hopefully going to change for the better, but who knows? I honestly think the only way that you can get global, the private industries, the private side of industries that are fucking us over, big oil. It's basically just big oil and gas. The only way to get them to pivot and like indirectly cause the targets or all of our emissions and things to come down is to pave a gold road to pave the gold road to other forms of money. I don't know. Anyways, something just to keep on the top of your mind. Just something. All right. I'm just gonna very quick. Someone said 90 minutes, and I said I was gonna keep it short. So just to put this on your brain, something that came out a little while ago. But speaking of run by ideologies, Louise Upston, this entire government, who wrote the cabinet paper recommending New Zealand not to recognise a Palestinian state? It was drafted by the Office of Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is quite unusual. It's usually done by public service. basically we're going to have a look at this article because it's quite interesting. But it talks about essentially the independent people that come in and work for the office specifically that don't have to be named. What are they called? I want to say, what do they call them? Advisors. Special advisors. So there's a bunch of countries around the world where they say any special advisors who are not public advisors, they're not part of the public ministries and things, have to be named, what their salaries are, any conflicts of interest like their financials, that sort of things. But here in New Zealand, we can kind of just let any advisors in, and they can advise whatever they want, and there's no paper trail. It's a little bit concerning. And that's what this article kind of dives into a little bit. But it was just another example of like government ignoring the ministries, the experts that run our country, basically, for their own personal interests. So that's cool. That's cool. Usually staffers from ministry departments write cab papers. Yeah, the staffers usually do. This came from the office themselves. Go and have a read. It's on The Conversation. Came out a wee bit ago, but I think it's still important to read. Interesting. Anyways, I've done a lot of talking. I don't know if you've done a lot of listening, but I appreciate it. We had another Kai Matata $5 pun. Next 2026 political slogan idea: more meth in the crowds, more methane in the clouds. No. Oh, actually, there was something that, oh, no, hang on. I got to show you this. It was my favorite thing. It was so funny. Obviously, the Epstein files are obviously being released. Everyone's favorite topic. I've heard just about everyone talk on it. Oh, hang on. Where is it? Oh, okay. So one of the things that came out was from the Epstein files was this response where someone said, in response, referring to Trump, so gross. And then Jeffrey Epstein in response said, worse in real life and up close. And it just made me think of like a lyric. So gross, worse in real life and up close. And I was just like, oh, it's a fucking bar. That's all I wanted to share. That was genius. It's I don't know if anyone's pointed that out, but it just made me laugh. And I'm just like, oh man, that's someone spitting bars there. We love it. We love it. Well, I think that's everything for me tonight, guys. Managed to keep it 90 minutes. That's pretty good. I'll have to do some editing now and make sure all the clips are up around the place. Oh, another Kai Matata. When he used to consider himself a friend of Israel. Did he now? Interesting. Interesting you say that. Oh, that's right. Yeah, just the emails, not the files. They've delayed them. Again? Weren't they supposed to vote on that today? Come on. Oh, and someone asked me what games I was playing. I was playing... Last night I was playing Don't Starve Together with my good friend. She'd never played it. I have played it a lot, but it turns out I get carried quite hard. So we died a lot. A lot. We were streaming Repo about a week ago. That was really good. It's a scary game if you want to see me screaming and hiding under tables. Go and watch that on my YouTubes. And for that, I was playing lots of Town to City, which I was so excited for, and it's a bloody good game if you want something cozy and you're a bit of if you like to decorate stuff. And The other one I was playing before that was Foundation, in waiting for Town to City. So yeah, you could go. I don't know. I gotta talk about Monopoly. I have the New Zealand edition of Monopoly. I don't think it's ever been opened, but no. Wait, why do I have to talk about Monopoly? Something happened? Oh, I fucking hate Monopoly. I hate that game so much. Least favorite game in the world. All right, I think we got an intro to play, and you guys have a Friday evening to go and enjoy. So, shall we do the thing? Shall we do the thing? Where am I going to put myself? Do I put myself? Oh wait. Oh no, hang on. We're missing one of our layouts. Where are you? There it is. That's the one. We had to play with StreamYard, so it's been doing some fun things. That's the one I want. And then if I do this. Yes, and then we do this with this. We did it! Outro!
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war puff to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by both Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
Thanks everybody for joining me on this wonderful Friday evening. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something new. I hope it wasn't too depressing. Go and touch some grass while we have some. I think that's probably my advice to you before I go. Oh look, there's another kitty cat. She is there. Yeah, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. It's I believe it's our second last show next week. So if you want to make the most of it, come and join us on Fridays, or come and see the boys on Monday at 9 p.m. Oh, and we've got the Leftist Collective, which is back on Sunday at 7, I believe. So yeah, go watch that. It'll be good fun. All right, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Catch you all later. We'll see you next time. I'm missing the layout, guys. The layout's not there. I can't remove myself. No! No! This one. I found it. Bye.